March 5th, 2013, when all of a sudden, a student in the back of the classroom fell off his chair and went into cardiac arrest. The classroom began to panic. Luckily, there was a student in the classroom who knew how to give CPR and started doing it immediately until the paramedics arrived. Luckily for that situation, that student helped save that other fellow classmate's life. Now, according to the American Heart Association, about 92% of sudden cardiac arrests die before reaching the hospital, but statistics prove that if more people knew CPR, more lives could be saved. Now today, I'm going to inform you how to give CPR because honestly, I think that's something everyone should know. And according to the American Red Cross Association, most people who experience cardiac arrest at work, home, or in a public location die because they don't receive immediate CPR from someone on the scene. As a bystander, don't be afraid. Your actions can only help. Now, I would consider myself a credible source because I'm a certified lifeguard, and I have my little lifeguard certification up there. And I've been a lifeguard and swim instructor for about 3 years at the Riviera Country Club. Now, CPR. CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is a technique that combines the chest compressions and the breathing. And it's considered an artificial way of pumping blood through the heart, because like the chest compressions, you're pumping the blood through the heart. Okay, and when you perform CPR on someone, it's when they're not breathing and there's no pulse and therefore going into cardiac arrest. Now today, I'm going to be going over the preliminary activities, how to check a victim's ABCs, and how to perform CPR. Okay, so I'm going to start with the preliminary activities. Make sure you and the victim are in a safe place. So you're going to survey the scene, make sure you and the victim are in a safe place. If the victim's in the water, for a situation where they're drowning, you would go in the water and take them out. And if it's maybe a natural disaster and the victim, like you guys are not in a safe place, you have to carry the victim to a safe place. Now, one thing you have to be careful for, though, is spinal injury. I mean, if they dove into the pool and you can see that, they have a spinal injury, lifeguards know a procedure with the backboard. And if it was a natural disaster, I mean, if there was a situation where you had to get them out immediately, I mean, the spinal injury, I wouldn't worry about that. Just get them out of there as fast as possible. Next, check for unresponsiveness. You would tap on the victim's shoulder and say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" If no response, then proceed to the next step, which is calling for help. You would say, "Help, help. This person's unconscious. Someone call 911. If there's no one around, then you have to call 911. But hopefully there will be someone else around so you can proceed to the next step. But when you call 911, you should give your name, your number, the location, and the emergency situation. So you would want to tell the people that the victim's unconscious so they know what to do as soon as they get there. Now, after going through the preliminary activities, you go on next to checking the victim's ABCs. Now, the A stands for airway. So you're going to tilt the victim's head back. You're going to, okay, so here's their head. So you hold on to their forehead and you tilt it back to open up the airway because it could be closed if it's like this. So you open up the airway. And then the B stands for breathing. So you put your ear up to their mouth and you listen for them breathing and see if their chest is going up at all. And then if they're not breathing, then you go on to C, which is circulation. So you check the victim's pulse either on their wrist or on their neck. Now, after you've checked their ABCs and they don't have a pulse, they're not breathing, you go on to the next step, which is performing CPR. Now, first things first, you have the victim laying on the ground on their back. You kneel on the side of them. Now, you place the heel of your hand on their breastbone. Now, I had a picture up here of how to locate the sternum, and the sternum is located like along the nipple line, and like there's 2 fingers above the rib cage. Like, I had a really good visual for that one, but it's kind of hard to explain. But locating the sternum, you locate it, you put your heel in the indent, and you interlock your fingers like this. It's like, if you guys want to try it at your desk, you interlock your fingers like this. So you have your heel of your hand on their sternum, and you have it like this. And then the next thing you do is you'd start the chest compressions. Now, when giving the chest compressions, you want to go about 1.5 to 2 inches deep on their sternum. Now, one thing that's kind of funny is, I don't know if anyone knows the song Staying Alive. Well, you're supposedly supposed to go along to the beat, like staying alive, like that. So you're supposed to go along to that beat, and the song has about 105 compressions per minute, and it said that you're supposed to do about 100 compressions per minute. But so you would just start doing chest compressions, maybe to relax a little. You'd sing the song in your head, staying alive, okay. So, and then also one thing to remember is when you have your arms like this, now your arms, they have to be straight down, and all of your upper body is being pushed. So your elbows are locked, and your arms are perpendicular like this. I had really nice pictures, but we're not going to talk about that. Okay, so then after giving the chest compressions, you give 30 for every 2 breaths. So now giving the breaths. You have to, you know how I said about tilting the person's airway open? So you hold onto their forehead, pinch their nose closed, and you'd have to suction your mouth over their mouth and give them 2 nice breaths. Now, when you're giving the breaths, you're not going to give them 2 deep breaths, just 2 nice breaths where you see their chest going up. So you give them the breaths, and you probably see their chest going up. If for some reason the breaths aren't going in, you might want to check to see if the victim has an object lodged in their throat, which could be, it could be a factor. Okay, so, and then you give 2 breaths for every 30 compressions, and you would repeat that process until consciousness gained or help arrives. Now today, you should walk away knowing the steps to CPR are the preliminary activities of surveying the scene, checking for unresponsiveness, calling 911, then checking the victim's ABCs, and starting to perform CPR, the chest compressions and breathing, until help arrives. According to the American Red Cross Association, 70% of Americans may feel helpless to act during a cardiac emergency because they don't know how to administer CPR. Also, an article in Psychology Today, What is a Bystander Effect, notes that you are less likely to act when the presence of others hinders an individual from intervening in an emergency situation. Now, I hope after giving you guys this information that if you were in an emergency situation, you would just act instantly. You wouldn't let the bystander effect affect you, think, oh, maybe somebody else around will do it, You just have to act on that action immediately. And hopefully this step-by-step procedure will help you sometime in the future, and who knows, maybe you can save a life.
Questions for Rachel?
Any questions? Yes.
So yeah, a question came up a while ago when I was in high school. So is there any precautions, typically, with the mouth, a lot of people are skeptical.
That's a good question. I totally forgot to mention that. There's this thing that American Heart Association has been talking about, just the hands-only approach. Because, if you're in that situation, you don't feel comfortable putting your mouth up to another person's mouth. Is that what you're asking about, putting your mouth up to another person's mouth? You just the chest compressions, anything would help. Just having those chest compressions, pumping the blood through the heart, that's more than enough. Just until the paramedics arrive.
Right.
So, hands-only approach is great.
I just remember that commercial.
Any other questions?
How often do you have to renew a certification?
Every 2 years. Yeah, and the certification is for first aid, AED, and CPR. Because the defibrillator, so you get certified for that too. And the lifeguard certification is a great thing to have for resumes, and just being a lifeguard is nice too. Any more questions?